Have you ever wondered why you were born in a particular year? Why, out of all the infinite moments in time, your breath entered this world when it did? What if I told you that the last digit of your birth year holds a whisper? Not a scream, not a command, but a whisper of your destiny. Pause with me. Close your eyes, not the ones on your face, but the ones on your soul. The world has taught us to measure life in hours, in income, in noise. But the universe does not speak that language. It speaks in patterns, symbols, echoes. One of those symbols rests silently at the end of your birth year. One number, quietly attached to the year you entered this realm, yet brimming with hidden meaning. You may think it's random, arbitrary, coincidental, but is anything ever truly accidental? Let us go deeper. If your last digit is 0, you were born under the mark of the void, not emptiness, but infinite potential. Yours is the path of creation from silence, the responsibility to shape from nothing. Often misunderstood, your presence is like still water, overlooked, yet capable of reflecting the entire sky. If it is one, you are the spark, the beginning of cycles, a soul that carries fire in its breath. Independence is your instinct, but so is isolation. You are called not only to ignite, but to learn when to let others carry the flame. If it is 2, you bear the seal of balance, duality, softness with steel beneath. You are the bridge between opposites, but in seeking peace outside, you often abandon the war within. Your journey is to unify without losing yourself in the process. If 3, then you are marked by expression, the sacred dance of voice and vision. People may see your brightness and assume you are whole, but light can be deceiving. Your destiny is to learn that performance without purpose is only noise. If you carry 4, you are a foundation, the architect of stability. You are called to build what others fear will collapse, but your shadow is rigidity. You must learn to hold form without becoming a cage. If your digit is 5, you are movement, the wind never captured, the change others resist. Restless, yes, but it is because your soul remembers freedom. The world will try to anchor you, but your task is not to stay it, is to show that transformation is survival. With 6, you are harmony, a healer, drawn to make the broken beautiful again. But beware, when you pour too much, you empty. You must learn that your light is not meant to burn out in the name of others' comfort. If it is 7, you are the seeker, a traveler not of roads, but of truths buried under illusions. Your eyes were made for what is hidden. Others may call you distant, but that distance is where your soul communes with the eternal. For those born under 8, you are power, not the loud kind, but the force that moves mountains without needing to roar. You are tested by temptation because you were born to lead, but your path lies in knowing that true power is not control, it is stewardship, and if your last digit is 9, you are the end and the beginning. You carry the residue of lives you don't remember, wisdom you didn't earn in this life alone. You are the completion of cycles and the seed of what is next. Heavy is your burden, but glorious is your calling. So, now knowing this, what does your number whisper to you? Not all will hear it, but if you listen carefully, the whisper becomes a bell, and the bell becomes a doorway into who you were meant to be. Before the world told you otherwise, time is a river, yet we treat it like a ruler, dividing it into straight lines, precise measures, and ticking moments. But the soul does not move in straight lines. It circles, it spirals, it returns, and in that movement, it whispers secrets through symbols most never notice. One such symbol is the final digit of the year you were born. It seems small, even meaningless to some. A technicality on paper, a mere coincidence in the grand machinery of the calendar. But in reality, it is neither minor nor random. It is a cipher, a key embedded into your entry point into this world. The last digit of your birth year is not simply a number. It is a sacred mark left by time itself, a silent code from the universe meant only for you. We are conditioned to dismiss such symbols. Modern life has taught us to look for logic, to dismiss mystery as superstition, to explain away the sacred with science. But mystery is not the absence of truth. It is the invitation to go deeper into it. When we were born, the universe was not merely tracking a day, it was synchronizing a soul. The moment you took your first breath, you were aligned with a certain rhythm. The sky had its formation, the earth its vibration, and the final digit of your birth year stood as the fingerprint of that exact temporal energy. Consider how cultures throughout time have revered numbers, not as math, but as meanings. The ancient Greeks believed numbers were the language of the cosmos. The Chinese spoke of the power and fortune within them. Sacred texts are filled with numerical symbols: 3 days, 7 seals, 12 tribes. So why should it be strange to believe that the number attached to your birth has something to say? The modern world may scoff at such thinking, but beneath the noise of its distractions, the soul still remembers. It remembers that numbers are not just tools of calculation, but symbols of calling. The last digit of your birth year operates like a subtle frequency. Think of it as a background tone that hums quietly through your life, influencing the way you see, feel, react, and move, even when you're unaware of it. This number does not speak in loud declarations. It whispers. It murmurs in your moments of doubt, in your patterns of conflict, in your deep desires and silent gifts. It shows up not as a fact to be memorized, but as a force to be remembered. Some spend their entire lives unaware of its pull, wondering why they feel called towards certain roles, repeated in certain cycles, or drawn towards specific types of people. They don't see the pattern because they never knew to look. But once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The digit 0, for example, is not nothingness. It is the womb. It is potential unformed, undefined. It calls those born under it to create from nothing, to shape destiny from silence. And yet, how many with that number struggle with identity, with grounding, with a sense of self? Not because they are broken, but because they are born of pure possibility. And possibility always feels like chaos before it becomes form. Likewise, the digit 1 is not merely a beginning. It is the spark that dares to stand alone. It brings with it both brilliance and loneliness. It calls its holders to blaze trails others fear to walk, but also burdens them with the solitude of leadership. And this is how the numbers speak, not in facts, but in frequencies, not in instructions, but in invitations. To understand this is to realize that your life has been participating in a hidden language all along. You may not have seen it, but it was shaping you. The choices you made, the passions you chased, the wounds you carried, they did not form in isolation. They were part of a larger, symbolic choreography that began the moment you arrived. The world told you to ignore these patterns, to focus only on what can be proven, but the soul knows better. It always has. It looks at your life not through the eyes of efficiency, but through the eyes of meaning. And what is time, if not a container for meaning? We live under the illusion that time is mechanical. But in truth, time is alive, it breathes, it remembers, and it leaves signs. Some of those signs are loud, traumas, revelations, milestones. Others are quiet. The last digit of your birth year is one of the quiet ones. It sits there, unnoticed, like the final word of a poem that lingers in the silence after the page is turned. And yet, in that final word, the entire essence of the poem is contained. So it is with this digit. It may seem like a minor footnote in the grand story of your life, but it contains a whisper of the plot. It doesn't dictate your choices, but it reveals the terrain on which you walk. It's not about superstition, it's about symbolism. There is a difference. Superstition traps you in fear. Symbolism sets you free through understanding. When you begin to see the digit not as a sentence, but as a symbol, you reclaim the power to work with time rather than against it. You begin to interpret your experiences with more compassion, more clarity. You understand why certain lessons keep returning, why certain emotions seem to echo louder than others, because your life is not random, it is rhythmic. And rhythm always leaves clues. Our ancestors knew this, even if they didn't speak of it in these terms. They saw the movement of the stars and knew it reflected something within. They watched the moon and felt its pull not just on oceans, but on emotions. They studied the passing of seasons and aligned their inner journeys accordingly. We, in our age of technology, have forgotten these inner alignments. We've traded rhythm for routine, symbolism for statistics. But the deeper truths of life have not disappeared. They are simply waiting for someone to ask the right question. The question is not, what does this number mean? The question is, why was I born with this number echoing in time? It's a more personal, more intimate inquiry. It shifts you from passive observation to active participation, because to ask why is to search, and to search is to awaken. When you begin to live with that awareness, that the final digit of your birth year is a symbol placed at the doorway of your incarnation, everything starts to unfold differently. You begin to listen more closely to your life. You stop dismissing the subtle urges that lead you toward your purpose. You notice how your reactions, your challenges, your talents all speak the same language as that number. It doesn't define you, but it does design you. And you, in turn, are called to refine that design through choice, through intention, through awakening. Most people live at the surface of their lives. They never think to look beneath the numbers, beneath the dates, beneath the structure. But you are not most people. You are here, you are listening, you are remembering that nothing about your life was ever an accident. You were born when you were born for a reason. The world may have given you explanations, cultural, historical, social, but your soul knows there is something more. And in the quiet hum of your birth, year's last digit, that more, is calling out to you. We think of destiny as something ahead of us, waiting to be found. But what if it is also behind us, encoded in the moment we entered the world? What if the whisper of our purpose was planted in the soil of our origin? What if that digit, the final one, is the symbol that unlocks the pattern? What if the answer has been with you all along, not hiding, but waiting, for the day you would finally stop looking outward and start listening inward? That day begins the moment you dare to see the ordinary as sacred. The moment you hold up that number, not with superstition, but with reverence. The moment you stop asking what the world wants from you and start asking what the universe whispered into you from the very beginning. In the quiet mathematics of the universe, there lies a truth few ever learn to see. Numbers, so often reduced to tools of commerce, accounting, and logic, hold within them echoes of something far more ancient, far more sacred. They are not just values, they are vibrations. They do not simply quantify, they reveal. In the language of the soul, numbers are symbols that speak not only of measurements but of mysteries. And within those mysteries live archetypes, timeless patterns that shape who we are, how we walk, and where we are destined to evolve. The last digit of your birth year is not a mistake. It is not a meaningless tag placed at the end of a number. It is a mirror, a signature, a cipher. It holds the archetype of your soul's path. Archetypes are not characters, They are not roles. They are not labels. They are energy forms, cosmic blueprints that live beyond culture, beyond time. They are expressions of life that repeat in different bodies, through different names, yet carry the same essence. The warrior, the healer, the teacher, the builder, the seeker. These are not just poetic titles. They are energies that incarnate through people, and when the soul enters the earth through the veil of time, it carries one or more of these archetypes as its core frequency. The final digit of your birth year points to the dominant archetype encoded within your incarnation. It is not the whole of who you are, but it is the central theme of your spiritual design. When the digit is 0, it carries the archetype of the cosmic womb. Those born under this number are the holders of potential, the carriers of possibility. Their lives are not defined by a single direction, but by the endless question of what they could become. These individuals often feel like they are floating between paths, never fully belonging to one role or identity. But this is not a flaw. It is a feature of their archetype. 0 is not emptiness. It is everything before it takes shape. It is the silence before the song. The task of the 0 archetype is to embrace this undefined nature, not as confusion, but as creative power. They are here to manifest from the void. The digit 1 introduces the archetype of the pioneer. This is the energy of initiation, of trailblazing, of forward motion. People born under this number often feel an unexplainable urge to stand alone, to break away from the herd, to walk a path untouched. Their strength lies in self, reliance and vision, but their challenge is loneliness and pride. The pioneer does not follow but leads, and that journey can be isolating. Still, their presence awakens the dormant courage in others. They are the spark that lights the flame. The path of the pioneer is to learn that independence is not isolation, and that leadership is most sacred when it empowers others, not when it exalts itself. When the digit is 2, the archetype of the harmonizer comes into play. This is the energy of balance, partnership, and relational intelligence. These individuals are deeply attuned to the needs and emotions of others. They often find themselves in roles of support, mediation, or emotional anchoring. But beneath their calm exterior is often a storm of suppressed needs. The harmonizer archetype can fall into the trap of self-erasure, losing themselves in the service of peace. Their destiny is to bring harmony without abandoning their own voice. They are not here just to keep the balance, but to teach others the sacred dance between self and other, between giving and receiving. 3 carries the archetype of the creative messenger. This is the energy of communication, joy, and emotional expression. People under this digit are often drawn to the arts, storytelling, performance, and connection. They possess the gift of turning emotion into beauty and experience into wisdom. But their curse is performance without authenticity. They can become trapped in seeking applause rather than meaning. The creative messenger must learn that true expression is not about being seen, but about being felt. Their gift to the world lies not in their ability to entertain, but in their ability to articulate the unspoken truths of the collective soul. With the digit 4 comes the archetype of the architect. These individuals are builders, not just of structures, but of systems, foundations, and legacies. They value order, discipline, and reliability. They are often found creating the unseen frameworks upon which others stand. Their strength is endurance, but their shadow is rigidity. The architect archetype can become imprisoned by its own structures, unable to flow or adapt. Yet, their gift is essential to the stability of families, communities, and organizations. Their journey is to learn that true strength includes softness, and that flexibility does not mean failure. The architect reminds us that dreams need scaffolding in order to stand. The digit 5 gives rise to the archetype of the catalyst. This is the energy of change, motion, exploration, and freedom. These souls are restless, not because they are lost, but because they are wired to evolve. They often resist conformity, feel suffocated by routine, and crave variety. Their lives are marked by pivots, experiments, and transitions, but their challenge is inconsistency. The catalyst must learn the art of grounded movement, to change without chaos, to explore without escape. When they master this balance, they become powerful agents of transformation, capable of guiding others through the very transitions that once terrified them. 6 holds the archetype of the nurturer. These individuals carry the sacred energy of care, compassion, and healing. They are drawn to service, to family, to causes that ease suffering. Their heart is their compass, but often the nurturer forgets that giving and receiving are two halves of the same circle. They overextend, over-sacrifice, and in doing so, lose touch with their own needs. Their lesson is that self-love is not selfish. It is the soil from which true care grows. When in alignment, the nurturer becomes a radiant source of unconditional presence, healing those around them not by fixing, but by simply being. With 7, the archetype of the seeker emerges. This is the energy of introspection, mystery, philosophy, and spiritual inquiry. Those with this number often feel like old souls, disconnected from the surface-level pursuits of the world. They are drawn to solitude, wisdom, and the unknown. Their minds are deep wells, constantly reaching for something beyond the visible. But their path is not without struggle. The seeker can become detached, overly skeptical, or isolated in their search. Their destiny is to bridge the inner and outer worlds, to bring spiritual insight into practical reality. They are here to remind us that knowledge becomes wisdom only when it is lived. 8 brings the archetype of the steward. This energy is often misunderstood, for it is deeply connected to power, authority, material success, and leadership. Those born under this digit are called to influence, to manage resources, to guide others. But this calling comes with immense tests, temptation, ego, and imbalance. The steward archetype must learn that power is not possession, it is responsibility. They are not here to dominate, but to uplift. Their journey is to transform ambition into purpose, control into collaboration. When awakened, they become powerful channels for abundance, not just for themselves, but for entire communities. Finally, 9 carries the archetype of the sage. This is the energy of completion, wisdom, compassion, and universality. These individuals often feel a deep connection to humanity as a whole, and are drawn to paths that involve service, teaching, and higher awareness. They carry the weight of many lives, often experiencing things earlier or more intensely than others. Their shadow is martyrdom and emotional exhaustion. The sage must learn that they are not here to save the world, but to illuminate it. Their presence alone is a form of healing. They are not the beginning of the story, but the keeper of its conclusion. Their role is to prepare the path for others, to turn endings into new beginnings. These archetypes are not walls that trap you, but windows that reveal you. They are not labels meant to confine, but languages meant to decode your journey. To know your archetype is not to put yourself in a box. It is to recognize the song your soul has been singing all along. It gives you the permission to live with intention, to face your shadows with compassion, and to cultivate your gifts with purpose. Every soul carries elements of all archetypes, but one hums louder than the others. That hum is found in the last digit of your birth year, not as a rule but as a rhythm. It is the background frequency of your becoming. When you walk in alignment with your archetype, life does not become easier, but it becomes clearer. You understand your struggles as sacred initiations. You see your tendencies not as flaws, but as signals. You stop trying to become someone else and begin to refine the truth of who you already are. The archetypes embedded in these numbers are not foreign ideas imposed upon you. They are echoes of your original design, and to honor them is to honor the intelligence that wove you into time itself. Destiny is often spoken of as if it were a law etched in stone, a script written before birth and read without question throughout life. We imagine it as a rigid path carved by unseen hands where every step is predetermined and free will a comforting illusion. This idea brings with it a certain finality, a sense of helplessness, as though the vast complexity of our existence is reduced to a single story written long before we even opened our eyes. Yet if we look closer, if we listen beneath the noise of certainty and fear, we find a more nuanced truth, a truth that changes everything. Destiny is not a dictation, it is a dialogue. This dialogue is subtle. It does not shout commands or give clear orders. Instead, it unfolds in the quiet spaces between moments, in the feelings that stir beneath our awareness, in the recurring patterns that appear as gentle nudges or persistent challenges. It is the universe speaking to the soul, not with the voice of an authoritarian, but with the tone of a patient guide. This conversation begins the moment we take our first breath and continues throughout our lives, shifting as we shift, expanding as we awaken. It is not fixed, it is fluid. When we understand destiny as dialogue, the weight of inevitability lifts. We are no longer prisoners of fate, but co-creators in a sacred exchange. The last digit of your birth year, for example, is often seen as a symbol of destiny, a marker stamped on your existence that supposedly dictates your journey. But in truth, it is more like the opening line of a conversation, an invitation, not a command. It sets a theme, a frequency, but how you respond to that theme is your choice. This is the essential freedom of the human experience. We are given circumstances, energies, archetypes, but how we engage with them is where destiny truly lives. To see destiny as dialogue is to accept responsibility without burden, to embrace freedom without chaos. It means acknowledging that while the universe offers you a role, it does not force you into it. You can walk the path laid before you, but you can also step aside, forge a new one, or return to the old with renewed purpose. This is why some people seem to flow effortlessly through life, guided by a deep inner knowing, while others struggle against currents they cannot see. The difference is not luck or punishment, it is awareness of the dialogue. Every decision you make is a response in this conversation. When you listen deeply to your intuition, your heart, your pain, you are tuning into the frequency of your destiny's voice. When you ignore these signals, when you force yourself to conform to external expectations or fears, you mute the dialogue. The echoes of your true path become faint, replaced by noise and confusion. But the universe is patient. It keeps whispering. It will often send the same message again and again, in different forms, through people, events, dreams, until you learn to listen. This is the dance between fate and free will, not opposition, but collaboration. The last digit of your birth year may suggest that you carry the energy of a builder, a seeker, or a nurturer, but how you live out that energy depends on the choices you make every day. You can build structures that imprison, or you can build bridges that connect. You can seek knowledge that isolates, or seek wisdom that heals. You can nurture others while neglecting yourself, or you can nurture in a way that sustains both. Destiny does not force a single outcome. It offers potentials. The dialogue happens in the space where potentials meet decisions. This perspective also reframes struggle and suffering. When destiny is seen as a script, obstacles feel like cruel twists of fate, unfair and meaningless. When destiny is dialogue, Difficulties become questions posed by life, waiting for your answer. They are moments of testing, moments of invitation to deepen the conversation. How do you respond to pain? With resistance or with curiosity? With despair or with courage? Your answers shape not only your journey but the very nature of your destiny. Each challenge is a conversation starter, a chance to rewrite the terms, to deepen your understanding, to reclaim your power. In this light, destiny is not a fixed endpoint, but an ongoing co-creation. It is a living story that unfolds through your engagement. The universe is not a dictator, but a partner, offering signs and symbols, energies and archetypes, but always inviting your participation. The last digit of your birth year is a beacon, a call to dialogue. It tells you who you might be if you listen, who you could become if you answer, but the rest is up to you. The way you respond is what gives destiny its shape and meaning. This dialogue is also deeply personal and uniquely yours. No one else can live your conversation for you. Others may offer advice, insight, or encouragement, but the heart of destiny's dialogue is between you and the universe. It is a sacred trust, a covenant that asks for honesty, courage, and presence. Sometimes the answers come quickly, like flashes of insight. Other times they emerge slowly, through years of reflection, trial, and transformation. But the dialogue never ends. It evolves as you evolve. To embrace destiny as dialogue is to embrace uncertainty, not as something to fear, but as the fertile ground from which creativity and growth emerge. It is the recognition that life's meaning is not handed down fully formed, but discovered in the moments where you engage with the unknown. It invites you to live not as a passive recipient of fate, but as an active participant in the unfolding mystery of your existence. This perspective also dissolves the illusion of control. Many seek to dictate their destiny, to fix it into a neat plan. But destiny as dialogue reminds us that life's greatest wisdom often comes from surrender, from opening to the unexpected, from listening deeply to the subtle signals that guide us beyond our limited designs. It is not about forcing the future, but about tuning into the present moment with openness and trust. The last digit of your birth year may hint at themes and tendencies, but it does not prescribe every detail. It asks you to be awake, to be engaged, to be willing to respond. Ultimately, the dialogue of destiny is an invitation to a relationship with yourself, with the universe, with the flow of life. It asks you to show up with curiosity, with humility, with love. It asks you to honor the sacred co-creation in which you participate every day. When you shift from seeing destiny as a dictation to seeing it as dialogue, you reclaim your voice and your power. You no longer wait for fate to unfold around you. You step into the conversation and become a creator of your story. In this space, every moment is rich with possibility. Every choice matters. Every breath is a response. The last digit of your birth year may be the first word spoken in this lifelong conversation, but your life is the ongoing dialogue. It is in this exchange that destiny is born, not as a predetermined script, but as a living dance between you and the universe. To awaken is to stir from a deep sleep, to open eyes that have long been closed or distracted by the noise of the world. It is the first step toward wholeness, not because awakening itself completes us, but because it reveals the patterns beneath the surface, those invisible currents shaping our lives, our choices, and our very sense of self. To become whole is not to become perfect or free from struggle. Rather, it is to recognize and integrate the patterns that have governed our being, consciously and unconsciously, so that we may live with fuller awareness and deeper harmony. The process begins with awakening to the pattern. Patterns are the architecture of experience. They are repetitions of behavior, thought, emotion, and circumstance that thread through our lives like hidden melodies beneath the louder symphony of daily events. Some patterns are inherited from our families, cultures, or societies, passed down through generations like unseen legacies. Others arise from the unique intersections of our personal histories and internal landscapes. Often, these patterns operate beneath our awareness, shaping our reactions and decisions as if we are following a script written long before we took center stage. Awakening to the pattern means shining the light of conscious attention into this shadowed choreography. Consider the last digit of your birth, your seemingly simple number that encodes more than just a temporal fact. It whispers of archetypal energies and behavioral tendencies, of resonances that echo within you, whether you have yet recognized them or not. To awaken to this pattern is to begin seeing your life not as random or fragmented, but as a part of a larger rhythm that calls for recognition. It invites a shift from victimhood to authorship, from confusion to clarity. This awakening is not an intellectual exercise alone, but a deep, felt realization that the threads weaving through your story are neither accidental nor meaningless. When you first become aware of these patterns, there can be resistance. The human psyche often prefers the comfort of ignorance, even if that ignorance breeds suffering. Patterns, once uncovered, reveal not only strengths but shadows, those ingrained habits or beliefs that limit and bind. The process of awakening is not gentle. It can feel like unraveling, like breaking apart the familiar to reveal the hidden knots beneath. But this unraveling is necessary for transformation. To become whole, you must know the pieces that make you up, including those parts that have been disowned or denied. Awakening to your pattern is also a form of self-honesty. It demands that you look without judgment or denial at the ways you may have unconsciously repeated cycles of pain, avoidance, or disconnection. It is not an exercise in self-criticism, but in radical acceptance. When you accept the existence of these patterns, you gain the power to shift them. Awareness is the seed from which change grows. Without awareness, the patterns control you. With awareness, you begin to dance with them consciously, to choose your steps instead of being swept away by the current. This awakening reveals the interconnectedness of your inner world and the outer world you inhabit. The patterns inside you often reflect the patterns in the world around you. Patterns of relationship, power, creativity, and healing. By recognizing your personal patterns, you begin to see the larger systems at play. The cultural and collective patterns that influence not only your destiny, but the destiny of the communities and societies in which you live. This understanding expands your sense of responsibility and possibility. To awaken to your pattern is to awaken to your place in the web of life. The process of awakening is ongoing. It is not a single moment of insight followed by a lifetime of clarity, but a continual unfolding. Each layer of awareness brings deeper insight and invites new integration. Sometimes the pattern you awaken to will feel comforting, revealing hidden gifts and strengths you never acknowledged. Other times it will expose wounds and limitations that have shaped your experience in ways you had not understood. Both are essential to becoming whole. Wholeness does not mean perfection or the absence of brokenness. It means the courage to embrace all parts of yourself with compassion. This journey toward wholeness through awakening also involves embracing paradox. Patterns often hold contradictions, strength and vulnerability, light and shadow, control and surrender. To awaken to the pattern is to live within these paradoxes without forcing resolution or simplification. It is to hold the tension of opposites and find meaning in their dance. This acceptance of complexity is what makes wholeness possible. It moves beyond the simplistic narratives of good or bad, right or wrong, to a deeper understanding of the fluid nature of human experience. As you awaken to your pattern, you begin to notice the ways in which you have been fragmented, how parts of yourself have been cut off or silenced because they did not fit the roles or identities imposed by family, culture, or circumstance. This fragmentation can take many forms: emotional repression, denial of talents, avoidance of pain, or disconnection from desire. Awakening calls you to reclaim these lost parts, to listen to their stories, and to welcome them home. Integration of these parts is the heart of becoming whole. It is a healing act that dissolves inner division and opens the possibility of living as a coherent, authentic self. This process often requires patience and gentleness. Awakening to the pattern can bring discomfort and vulnerability. Old defenses may crumble, and familiar ways of coping may no longer serve. But with time, this unfolding leads to greater freedom. The more you know your pattern, the less it surprises or controls you. You learn to anticipate its rhythms, to recognize its triggers, and to respond with conscious choice rather than automatic reaction. This mastery is not domination, but relationship. Respectful, compassionate engagement with your inner world. The awakening also extends beyond the individual. As you become more aware of your pattern, you naturally begin to see the patterns in your relationships, how you attract certain dynamics, how you respond to others, and how you are mirrored in the behavior of those around you. This relational awareness deepens your understanding of yourself and others. It invites empathy and forgiveness, not only toward others, but toward yourself. Recognizing that patterns are often shared, inherited, or learned allows you to release blame and to open space for healing collective wounds. At its core, awakening to the pattern is an act of reclaiming your story. It is reclaiming the narrative of your life from unconscious repetition and inviting conscious authorship. It transforms the last digit of your birth year from a mere number into a living symbol, a signpost on your path toward wholeness. It allows you to move from being shaped by destiny to shaping destiny in partnership with the deeper forces that move through you. This awakening is the beginning of a lifelong dialogue, a conversation between your soul and the unfolding mystery of existence. It invites humility, curiosity, and courage. It asks you to meet yourself honestly, to face discomfort, and to embrace change. It does not promise a life without difficulty, but it offers the possibility of a life lived fully awake, fully present, and fully engaged. Becoming whole through awakening to the pattern is not a destination, but a journey. It is the continual process of seeing, integrating, and transforming the threads that weave your unique tapestry. It is the dance of light and shadow, strength and vulnerability, past and present. In this dance, you come to know yourself deeply and to live more fully. The moment you awaken to the pattern is the moment you step onto the path of wholeness, a path that leads not away from yourself, but straight into the heart of who you truly are.